All right, we're live. Welcome everyone to TableTalk, where we talk all things tabletop. I'm your host, the Bad Luck Gamer, with my co-host, Glue Boy.
Hello, hello.
And today we're going to be talking about everything Player Core 2. All my thoughts after I've read the book more completely. I still haven't read everything because it's still a process of digesting and reading information, but I feel like I have a much better grasp of what's coming out now. But before we get to that part, we're going to do a little bit of small talk. So we'll probably get started probably around like the 15-minute mark. Also, hi, Nargle. And also, James. I'm curious to see some of your opinions on this too. So hopefully you get to stay tuned in. Because the book is great. I don't have many complaints. Well, that's not true. I do have quite a few complaints in number, but like as a whole, I would say percentage-wise, I don't have a lot of complaints.
It's like complaints in the way of like, I think any change can happen where you're just like, man, I wish it wasn't fully done like that. It doesn't erase the fact that Pathfinder 2e as a product is still very good. The company is great and the game's quality hasn't dropped. But I think I know what one of the main complaints still is.
Honestly, it's not even what you're thinking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And also, hi, Visya. So, yeah. But before we get to that, let's have Alex talk about Stormlight Archive a little bit.
Oh, God, okay. Yeah.
Before we get started, so he doesn't blow up over everything. But I guess slightly before that, because I don't have any news. My news is I've been doing videos every day. Actually, no, but you know what my news is? I've slowed down a little bit, and I got to play a little bit of Path of Exile, which was great. It was so nice getting to play a video game a little bit without doing videos literally 24/7. It was very rough. Granted, the channel's greatly grown. I got pretty sure over 800 subs in a week, which is
that is impressive.
A lot, and it's been a lot of effort. So because I got my review, which was like from essentially Tuesday to Sunday, and that was like 500 and something, 560 subs, and just those 2 extra days or just that 1 extra or 2 extra days to get to the full week since the book has released and I made my first video. I'm pretty sure it's over like 800. It's a lot. But yeah, so Alex, tell us what, like, I'm very curious about this. In the best way you can possible, boil down as simply as you can what the Stormlight Archives is.
Uh-oh. So that is such a funny thing to ask. Such a great, hilarious question. I think anybody who has read the series knows exactly how difficult of a question that is. Such a difficult question that if you go to Brandon Sanderson's website, his synopsis for the Stormlight Archives literally starts with, "I don't know how to summarize this series." It is a great time though. The Stormlight Archives is a series set in the world of Roshar, as it's called, in his large expanded universe of the Cosmere. And it is the story very, very largely about a group of characters fighting against a large being known as Odium. It takes a while to get to that point, but a lot of it is a lot of characters on their own personal journeys of growth in both personal growth and power growth, as they fight against a large existential threat to the world that is the final devastation that the world will face in a planet that essentially faces a cyclical apocalypse almost like every few thousand years. It hasn't happened for a long time, but this one is going to be the worst of it. And the main characters are trying to stop it. And outside of that, the Stormlight Archives is a world with probably one of the best versions, or best setting that is like a unique fantasy setting where I'm like, this is truly different, kind of alien and unique of a setting since like I've played like Morrowind. And probably the most satisfying magic system, because like the world of Roshar is so cool. It's a world that basically every few weeks faces a giant hurricane-like storm known as the High Storm, where it's literally a wall of rain and like thunder and lightning that like goes across the entire world. And so the entire ecology is built around the fact that, you know, there's giant, like devastating hurricanes that if you're outside, you're just probably going to die. And so the farther you go to where the devastations of the high storms are worse, everything's are just crabs. The plants are reactive and like they'll curl in back into the ground. Sometimes the trees will actually go prone if you touch them, because like all the plants are built to like protect themselves against heavy like stimuli. Yeah, and like dogs are crabs. Like there's these crab dogs, stuff like that. It's very cool. And a magic system with legitimately the kind of hard magic system where it's like, while you're actively thinking about how to gamify and like break the system, the characters are actively doing the exact same thing. And it's very cool. I literally just read a scene in the second book where the main character, one of them, Kaladin, was actively experimenting with how he could use his gravity magic in a fun, broken way. And the characters were like, oh, could you do this? Could you do this in combat? And he's like, oh, that's a good idea. I didn't think about that. He can manipulate gravity. So one of the characters asked, could you like make me stick to walls? That sounds like it'd be great in a fight. And he's like, it's a great question. I never thought about that. And then he proceeded to stick him to a wall for an entire minute. Not entirely stands. However, they in this world, to be awakened to your magical abilities, you do have to encounter familiars, basically, called Spren, which are incarnations of natural or like emotional phenomena. And these Spren will come find you, and then they'll like bond to you and awaken your powers. Because that's how this aspect of the Knight's Radiant. By the way, I want to make sure that this is very clear. I'm doing my best to summarize in a 1,000-page book. Because, like, I love this series. It's 5 pages each book, or five books so far in a 10-book planned series. Each book is over 1,000 pages. And the first book is an 1,000-page prologue. Like, essentially. The first book is setting up the plot of the entire series. So it's great, and one of the reasons I think it's very important to talk about it here is because there's going to be a tabletop game for it, and I think it's going to be a really cool tabletop game because the designers of the Star Wars Edge of the Empire system, Legend of the Five Rings, and I think one of the Fallout tabletop games are some of the lead devs on it. And I'm eternally frustrated because they keep comparing it to D&D, and the more I read about it, the more I'm like, this isn't D&D. This isn't D&D at all. They're actually really cooking with the game. Like, a lot. It's so good. I've endlessly talked about, can somebody steal the Fantasy Flight Star Wars system? And then the lead designer of that Star Wars system was like, okay. And then he created a game where he did that in the Stormlight Archives universe. And I'm so fucking here for it. Also, it's kinda a 3-action system, so hell yeah, Pathfinder supremacy.
You know, honestly, I think it's just something like oh god, they had this stupid thing in Baki. What was the stupid phenomenon when the killers all came together to Tokyo to lose, to suffer defeat? There was like this phenomenon, they called it.
Is that the whole thing with, like, stand users find other stand users?
No, Baki.
Yeah, no, but, like, that's the same principle of, like, they just will like fate will bring them together by chance.
I guess it's more like it's just like a sudden universal thought that came together, essentially.
I don't know what it's called in Baki, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, I can't remember. It was a stupid thing in Baki anyway, but like everything in Baki is stupid, to be fair. That's why you love Baki. You can't.
Baki is fun.
Yeah. But I feel like the Stormlight Archives is going to suddenly boom in popularity, as it feels like a bunch of people are just discovering it now and are really like talking about it.
The only counterpoint, I do think that it is like booming more and more in popularity as time goes on. It is the absolute best-selling fantasy book for in like series, and it has been for like the past like I think decade. Like it's just the problem is you'd have to be in the reading sphere.
Right.
Ew,
yeah, most people don't
reading. Yuck. Which that's the problem. And now they're finally like treading out into other areas, because like one of his other series, Mistborn, is getting a deck building like card game. And there's a tabletop game for Stormlight, which hell yeah. It's been worked on. I think it was announced last year, but we're gonna get more news for it because the Kickstarter is dropping during Gen Con.
And that's also a big thing too. It's dropping during Gen Con.
Yeah, and people are going to test it out during Gen Con. They're actually bringing the demo there. And that's what I'm excited for too, because apparently like it's been kind of done, or at least like in its state for a while. They've done a fuck ton of playtests apparently, and like people have played in like every incarnation of it, and everyone has said like it's really good. Like it feels great to play. The only thing I can see is there is still some like D20 isms that I think people have mentioned, because I know that some of the D20 isms it has is still like advantage, disadvantage. And another thing it has is it does have a reaction, like, you know, some of your turns you have like, depending on which initiative tracker you put yourself on, you can either have 2 actions or 3 actions. You take 2 actions, you go first. You take 3 actions, you will go after everyone who takes 2, the fast turns, as they're called.
Oh, that's a very interesting idea, huh?
Yeah. So you sacrifice an action, but you go earlier, and that's how initiative is tracked. And then then you have a giant list of actions, and you have reactions, and there's like 5 reaction things you can take. Like you can, I think, take less damage. One of the reactions is if you were going to take fall damage, you can reduce your fall damage. So, you know, if you use your reaction for, example, attack of opportunity, everybody will have an attack of opportunity thing, which is a worrying thing, because I don't like how that feels in D&D, because it makes everyone stand still. And the thing about Stormlight, when you're like reading it, is the fights are very mobile, like super mobile.
That's good.
And
That's good.
And like, and then when I see that there's attack of opportunity, I then immediately think of every D&D 5e fight I've been part of, where everyone plants their feet and stands still. Character customization over levels, by the way, if Dead Phoenix, if you want to get a vibe of it, how it works is every time you level up, you're gonna pick a talent of a talent tree from one of the paths, like the career paths, which is how it's done in Star Wars Edge of the Empire, where essentially how they talked about it is for your basic classes, quote unquote, like your paths, you have stuff like Scholar, Warrior, things like that. And inside of that, there are 3 sub-tiers based on like ideas of that. In Warrior, I think there's like a Tactician, Swordsman, and like things like that. Scholar, there's a crafter of like these arcane things known as fabrials, or like just a general scholar, which you can freely multi-class, like completely. You can go far specialization, like you could take up literally from, if you're level 5, you could take 1 ability in every single like career if you wanted, or you can hard specialize into one thing. And then as well, there are the 9 radiant paths that you can go into. I think those will be a bit more locked down, because like the radiant paths, I think you can only You can only get 2 types of surge powers inside of which radiant thing you put yourself in. So it is like a lot of multi-classing, because I watched the video. They're putting out YouTube videos on their channel, and one of the aspects of the series is that the characters are super multifaceted and like have a lot of identities. Like Kaladin is a soldier, but he's also a surgeon. He's a leader of men. He's a hero, and so they want to have a way to express that in character creation, where you can have a character who can express mechanically their long walk of life. And I think that's everything they're doing a really good way of mechanically making the book come alive, which is very cool. And yeah, if you like the Fantasy Flight game, you're going to like this. And I say that as someone who loves the Fantasy Flight game because it's really good, and it's just a D20 version of it. By multi-classing, it's literally, do you continue leveling your thing, or do you take the level from a different thing? Like, there's no penalties or anything from it. It's just purely like, well, I put 3 levels into Scholar onto this tree. Time to hop over to Warrior. Time to hop over to the Rogue thing. Like, it's just free. You can just do what you want.
It sounds more like you just can go down multiple talent trees.
Yeah, it's literally just skill trees.
Yeah, so.
And they're passive or active abilities that you gain as you go down the talent trees. Like one of the Scholar abilities they showed off, because that was the thing they showed in there. The Scholar has an ability to every day change 2 of their knowledge proficiencies.
Hmm.
And that's like one of their level. That's like their level 2 ability.
Yeah. So it does sound like I might cover it on the channel. That'll be kind of fun.
I'm gonna cover it on the channel, channel. I'm gonna make an overview video.
Exactly. We can tag team this. You can talk about all the cool lore stuff and all that stuff, and I can talk about why it's good.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great idea. I honestly am excited. If Starfinder 2 playtest wasn't coming out immediately, I would also probably just do it like as soon as I got my hands on the material. But unfortunately, Starfinder 2 comes out like right away, which also is unfortunate because I'm gonna have to jam a bunch of material on that right before our hangout. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited for Stormlight. I think it's got a lot of potential, honestly. I think it's going to be really cool. I think if they make a really good TTRPG with how popular it's been getting lately, I think we're going to see like a big mini boom on it.
I could see it doing well, and I hope it does well. The only thing about it is that, like, I don't see it doing well for people who haven't read the books.
Yeah.
Or at least, like, it's gonna do well for a group that, like, the GM at least has read, like, all the books. Because, actually, coolly enough, because the Kickstarter drops on August 6th. So, like, it drops on August 6th with a module. Like a test module to play through. Yeah, so like we theoretically could try it and like play it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be game. The only other game we could try is also Numenera, but
that's true. We have those 2.
Older, so
yeah. It'd be fun. It'd be fun to try out like both of them, either of them. Like it'd be a good time.
I mean, we're gonna be doing board game stuff like all week anyway, so
literally,
like an extra 4 hours here or there for more tabletop. I'm game. And yeah, they are making a TTRPG for Stormlight Archive Henshin, so I'll definitely bring it up on the channel. So if you guys don't want to miss that, subscribe. And I'll talk about it, or you can join our Discord, and Alex will eventually nerdgasm about it at some point as well. So
if anybody who actually is like curious about it, I just joined the Discord. I can just post some of the videos they have talking about it because the videos are actually really good. They're nice, short, and sweet, and it's the devs just talking about like the game they're working on very passionately, and then the devs' personal YouTube like channel like accounts in the comments nerding out over the Stormlight archives with people commenting. Like I was looking through them and it's just people like some of the lead designers being like, "Ooh, you caught my little Easter egg in the background. Yes, you're right." And like talking about like some of the stuff they're proud of that they're gonna put in the game, like giving teasers. So I'll put some of the videos in our Discord channel if anyone wants to see it. Especially the class one, because I see some questions about the class, how the class system works. It's hard to explain if you have not looked through Star Wars: Edge of the Empire, but it does not worked like a Pathfinder or a D&D class system. It is literally like a talent tree that your class abilities are got as you build up a talent tree. So there's no front loading or anything like that. It is the class is as built up as you purchase abilities. So it's very freeform.
Yeah, we'll do some full coverage on it when it releases and we get a chance to look at the information. So once I'm able to get my hands on it and really digest it, I'll regurgitate that for you guys, and we can hopefully find some cool things. But we probably should start talking about Player Core 2 now.
Yes.
As much as I'm also really hyped for Stormlight. Everything I've been hearing has been getting me more and more hyped. So we'll definitely take a look at it on the channel for sure. But let's talk about Player Core 2. So Player Core 2, I've had it for over a week now. A week and a few days. I have done all the classes. I have the video tomorrow releasing for the multi-class archetype dedication changes, which honestly has some of my gripes in it. But I want to state first and foremost, I have truly enjoyed everything that's come out around Player Core 2. I think Player Core 2 has introduced an opportunity to flavor some classes up that really needed it. I think Alchemist got some really good changes, but I think the biggest thing for Alchemist wasn't that it got changed to be good, more that it got more accessible than it used to. Swashbuckler, I feel like, got more substantial mechanical changes just because Panache is now the easiest thing in the world, so their playstyle has changed so dramatically. Oracle, I would say, also has changed rather dramatically in that way. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I think is still up for debate. But I will say, despite my video, despite what people think I thought about Oracle during my video, Oracle's really good. It's very strong. I like this new idea of Oracle being a dual focus point class in a way. I think it's very ingenious the way they did it. I think a lot of people are just kind of unable to properly communicate why they liked old Oracle more than new Oracle. Because everyone who's just like, no, man, Oracle is so much easier now. You can get into it, and it works mechanically better. And that's the thing. People who liked old Oracle didn't care about the class working better or not. What people liked about the old Oracle was that it was fun for them to play because it was fun for them to try to game how to make it, like how to make their curses work for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that part has been removed. It didn't matter if it's better now. That's not like what people found fun in Oracle before was the jankiness of the class. And now that that's been kind of removed, there's a lot of people who are upset. And a lot of people are just like, but it's better now. And it's just like, yeah, but that's not why they liked it.
Yeah, and because like I was talking to people on Twitter, funnily enough, the pointed statement of, what people think Cam's opinion of. There was some discourse brought about on Cam's like Oracle
There's
video.
always is, yeah.
Yeah, some of it weird, a lot of it's not that crazy. Not that serious. But I was at least chatting a little bit about it. And it is interesting bringing that up because a lot of it does seem like, because my opinion as well, I'm a person who has never played Old Oracle because it's a class that never appealed to me. Because I look at it and I'm just like, this looks like a lot of work to do something that, at least playstyle wise, I would like to do somewhere else. And when I look at all the casters, Oracle is the one I'm least wanting to play. Because I'm like, I don't know, this isn't my vibe. I think thematically it's kind of fun, but meh, whatever. And then I look at this new one, and I'm like, oh, this looks a lot more satisfying to play, mechanically a lot more fun. This is for me. And a lot of people are echoing the same sentiment. And that's where it really comes down to. I think it's like that's literally the nail on the head, is a lot of people saying this is way better. This is just more optimal. This works better, it's stronger, and that's not the point. It's not because we wanted something better. It's people who liked the task of making those curses work. They liked the jankiness of it. I think it's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
I never wanted to deal with that, and so that's why I didn't want to play it. And so I do feel bad for people who look at New Oracle and are like, this isn't the class I wanted to play. And that does suck. And you know what? I think an easy fix, just band-aid solution, is just asking your GM, hey, can I just play the non-remaster Oracle? It just feels like a pretty, like, the easy fix. Granted, because, like, it's not that crazy, but at least if you want to play a version of the class that you just like to play better, you should just, play the one you'll have more fun with.
I mean, yeah, but see, I don't like that particular answer because we're still in the situation where, as far as the future is concerned, Old Oracle is no longer going to get updated.
Oh yeah, I don't like that is the answer. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. It's just the one of like, if there is going to be a solution that is going to just help somebody in the short term, I feel like that is the answer to give. I don't like that it has to be that. I'd prefer that everybody gets the play style they want to play.
So, yeah, and, what, you can still play legacy content?
I know, right?
Oh, also, thank you, Bradley Couture, for the sub.
Because I also think it's just an important thing to keep in your mind of, like, this isn't a fucking video game. Like, it's not locked out. You can still do this, and your GM is still a human being that you can just chat with and ask, like, to make a solution to do something that you would find more fun at their table. Because, that's the point. Your relationship with the GM is to have a communication with to make sure everybody is having the most fun and the game is cool. Because they want to make sure you're having fun at their table, and you want to make sure that you're doing stuff to make the table fun for the GM as well. You want to make that like a big old reciprocation. So it's like a good thing to bring up and a good thing to remember. I would also like it if Paizo at least I'd like it if they gave old Oracle something. If they addressed that, like what if there was a thing that just introduced some jank? It's a little like a class archetype. I like that suggestion. Because we talked about that.
Yeah.
On our own. It was something that was suggested on Twitter, because in the discourse we had about Cam's video, it was suggested, like, if there's a class archetype that was like the old style of Oracle, that'd be a fun solution. And I was like, oh, that is a banger solution. I really like that.
Yeah, well, let's see. Also, thank you, Matt. Yeah, so, the thing with Oracle is it was going to be controversial. I said at the beginning of that video, and it's pretty much come to be where everyone is divided. You either like New Oracle or you hate New Oracle because you liked Old Oracle. So, whether the class works better or not, I think is irrelevant to that conversation. even though the people who like New Oracle keep using that as their arguments, even though it misses the point. So, you know, whatever it is, people liked old Oracle, old Ancestors, even though it was a silly one that was just character roulette. How am I going to be playing my caster next round? Oh, need to make a flat check or I can't cast a spell is kind of bad. But people liked that. They thought that was fun. So, you know, that's why I feel like when I said Paizo missed, they missed what people liked about it, and they didn't make it better. And also, I'll say the curses are still not balanced against each other, which is the weirdest thing. Some curses are genuinely way worse than some of the others. It's really bad, and I don't know why they didn't try to balance them better, but oh well. I want to talk about some good things first before I start talking about some of the negative things in Player Core.
We have our critiques of it, but like, you know, the Player Core 2 is great. It has some very fun changes.
I mean, for like, don't get me wrong, Oracle, I really do like the new Cursebound feats. Some of the new ones they added was really cool. And I can't wait to see what new Cursebound feats they release in the future. It's such good material to add interesting flavor to your character. And the best part about it is it's all flavored around your curse. So like even Water Walk that allows you to, when you're under the effects of your curse, like stride across liquids. Talking about how that can work can be like kind of like talking about how we were talking about the Stormlight archives, where maybe the Flames Oracle is burning so hot that they're creating a strange like steam pseudo solid layer for them to walk upon the water as they do so, rather than just falling in. Like the act of the steam pushing against them is keeping them off the water surface. Like there's so many interesting ways that some of these curses can be rebranded to do some interesting things.
Yeah.
And I hope they do release more specific curse-bound feats for each of the curses specifically, because now a lot of them have lost a lot of their individuality. They don't really offer much.
That was kind of the one complaint I had looking at it, even as someone who likes the way they're taking new Oracle, was like, I don't like how much crossover some of them have, where it's like, yeah, this one works for two of them. It's like, well, the fun of it is like I'm playing, you know, the Cosmos Oracle. I don't want to play the Cosmos or the other one. Like, what's mechanically separating these two? Other than theme, like I want unique stuff. I don't want like, because not a lot of the other classes do that. Because like I don't know, I think they do some cool stuff, and I think that they're setting up Oracle in a great way to add really dope shit. Like the Cursebound feats are great, and they can add or like some great stuff to Oracle. Mm-hmm. I do agree, and I hope that one of the things they do is unique Cursebound feats for the mysteries, so like each one has more of an identity. I don't like that there's theoretically two oracles that could be next to each other that could just have a lot of the same abilities. The only difference is, flavor wise they're different.
Yeah, which, you know, but I do like it. I do think there's a lot of new stuff that they can do with it, and I think it was a really ingenious idea to give them this kind of dual Cursebound, because then now they don't have to necessarily give up their spot as like the focus spellcaster, but now they're just not competing with Psychic, who is arguably one of the, you know, hardest focus spellcasters. So hardest as in like they're really good. They hit really hard. And like Barbarian got buffed strangely, a class I never thought needed a buff. I've had
Barbarian is so scary. Like it didn't need it, but you know what? Thanks, Paizo.
Yeah, it just like shrugs. Everyone's like, okay, Barbarians are better now. Cool. I will be doing. I missed out on my War Priest build. I got in my head to try to make a perfect video, and that just doesn't work. I'll be releasing new class builds for all of these when I start getting time, probably starting in September sometime. So all the new classes plus a War Priest build from the last player core, I will do some class builds. So you all get to see some really fun builds. Swashbuckler, man, Swashbuckler feels, I think, exactly like it should now. Swashbuckler can do all their fun stuff without having to worry about Panache, but Panache is so easy to get, and Panache just lets them do their hardest hitting abilities. That does feel like there's now a more even split between Swashbuckler with Panache and Swashbuckler without Panache, where before it was so heavily weighted towards Panache that's just like, why are you using finisher rotations? Why are you using a finisher every round? It's so hard for you to get your Panache back, and you would just be doing more damage on average if you just kept your Panache. Because if you miss your finisher, then you do a little bit of extra damage, but it's, I don't know. Obviously, there was ways that it was more damage efficient, but it just felt bad. And now it feels great. I think Swashbuckler is really good. They got some more smarmy kind of feats, which I think is perfect. And honestly, I want to play a Swashbuckler now. Like, I think they're really, really
Same.
good.
Yeah, I came out of Player Core 2 really wanting to play a Swashbuckler and a Champion. If I get to play either of those in upcoming Plague Watch, I'm gonna be happy. I have my three requests. It's like, if I play Exemplar, Champion, or Swash, I think I'm gonna be pretty happy.
And definitely from what I've been told from someone who talked with Paizo, they are 4-slot casters now for Oracle. So that'll probably be an errata, which there's gonna be a lot of errata coming out. Champion was one of those classes that, like, I think Champion's good now, don't get me wrong. I mean, it was always good. It just didn't feel like it changed all too much to me personally. And do you think Oracle needed a playtest to check all these changes?
I mean, I imagine they did playtest
They do
it in-house.
playtest. Yeah, most Paizo staff play a ton of Pathfinder. They did play it, and everything in my mind, new Oracle checks out. Like, yeah, some of the curses definitely are worse than others, and I feel like that was unfortunately a public playtest. I mean, they can't be doing playtests for everything.
It would have bogged down Player Core 2.
Yeah, and that was something they were already, like, really stressing about getting done. So they can't really playtest everything, and people demand playtests for anything anyway. So there's just no way. I feel like it works fine. I think the problem is when it came to how some of the curses are just way worse than some of the others, it was an unfortunate design choice of they wanted to keep the oracles with the same flavor as much as possible. And many of the curses did not change, really, except for Ancestors. So, yeah, I don't know. In Ancestors, they decided to, oh, hey, let's just give a caster worse and worse AC as their curse gets worse. So, yeah, I definitely don't think this is just the playtest. All this is just a playtest for Pathfinder 3. Yeah, but talking about Champion, Champion, I think, is good. They just loosened the reins a little bit on them, and they made them feel a little bit better. And I feel like also I've been seeing a lot of people having outcries that Unholy Champions kind of got the shaft a little bit. They didn't get really much new, and they didn't get even, like, anything super interesting for them. And I think in general, unholy and unholy are now somewhat I guess it's just the same as good and evil, only it's better. Unholy seems a lot more of like a the hard part about alignment is it's not as easy as someone's evil, someone's bad. Being evil can literally just being selfish in a sense by how the alignment has been done before. And unholy feels like a lot more of a dive into the deep end of like being evil. Like,
I mean, the fun part of desecration, for example, for unholy, is that there's no anathema.
yeah.
And then and then another fun part, because I just pulled it up, I was reading through a chunk of these. The other unholy inequity does have an anathema, which is bind yourself with a law other than what your deity requires, which makes me think, I think desecration not having anathema is kind of funny. Of like, you just do whatever the fuck you want. Grandeur holy, I think is really cool because if this is like edict, provide a shining example for others, enjoy and share beauty around you, like be this holy figure. The anathema isn't even like, be evil. It's display yourself by associating with fiends and unholy forces. That doesn't stop you from being evil. That's saying don't work with demons or like unholy things. You can be a shithead, like holy champion with that. You could be evil if you're on the old alignment system, much like a lot of portrayals of like celestials,
Yeah.
Like so holy that they're like evil in a human standpoint.
Yeah, they're so strict that they don't have any wiggle room. Does saying you're holy any different than saying you're good? Yeah, it's so different because being holy just means a god has sanctified you to follow their tenets and push their cause. That can be very tyrannical, honestly. That can be very much like justice. You can be a holy paladin of I guess any god that allows you to be holy, but of any like tyrannical, like the law is rule and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because that one's for grandeur, which is about like the glowing grandeur of the immaculate celestial realms and extort their values to bring humility to the denizens of other grim worlds. That's very like morally dubious. And then there is like the holy good one, which is redemption, which is about like redeem, evil people, like people who commit wicked deeds, and the anathema is kill a sapient enemy without first offering a chance at redemption. Like that one is a lot more morally good, but I like how the causes work now.
Yeah, I think
there's a lot of like great opening that they did on that. I see what you mean with like that champion. I don't think changed much, but honestly, just like loosening the reins just by like a little bit, honestly, like fixed up a lot of my own inspiration and hang-ups with like champion.
So why can gods allow you to be unholy if it's just about whether a god blesses you? Well, your god has to have holy or unholy sanctification in order for you to get it, first of all. So you can't be an unholy god of Torag, or an unholy champion of Torag, for instance. You just can't. Torag doesn't allow that. So, and there's some deities out there who you can't be either. They don't allow you to pick a side.
Yeah, like Asmodeus, you have to be unholy, but then, for example, like Callistra, you can pick holy or unholy, and then it just depends on who you're talking about. It depends on the god, depends on the philosophy you take after it, and that's kind of the more interesting aspect that they're taking out of it is like moral ambiguity of your interpretation of a god's belief system. which is going to be
Yeah.
the fun part of reshaping outside of this instead of just a flat good, evil, neutral. Which is why I think this is significantly more interesting in how
Mm.
the causes are working, in the idea of, yeah, there's holy, unholy, sure, but then in the causes, if you're that's like how you're going to look at it, it's going to be like, all right, which cause am I picking? Which god do I think I want to embody with this? How do I want to shape this god? Am I going to actually uphold this god's values, or are this god's values being twisted a little bit, either by my character or by the group my character is aligned with?
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, Champion I think is overall better. It's more flexible. It allows for more diverse character ideas. But in the same way, it's all about perspective. A lot of people liked the guardrails of alignments. They liked how alignments is good equals holy, evil equals unholy, unaligned equals neutral, and that's not the case at all. I think you've completely missed why alignment has been removed. A good or a holy character can be tyrannical if their god's mandates require them to force things on people. Most of the gods
And
aren't written that way, but it can be construed that way. Like if you have a
an
god of
unholy
civilization, you know.
and then an unholy god can be twisted in a way, in a positive direction, as like an unholy god about, maybe being anti-civilization, or even like anti like bonds, can then be twisted into a like free the shackles of oppression, into a
Yeah.
bunch of freedom fighters, which can then be shaped like, sure, you're using unholy, but now like that's not an evil act. It just depends on interpretation, which is, I think, way more interesting than just a trinity of moral, just like classification. And I that's how I like to work with things, because I am very anti like alignment. And I was very happy when I heard that they're going to get rid of it, because I just don't like the effects of how alignment works, in that it just applies like, there's a flat moral compass with how things work. It's like, no, there's wiggle
Well, it
room.
was never flat.
No, there's a wiggle. There's like a compass.
It was always like a gradient of different choices, but
I just like that. I like that this, I think, can mechanically reward people for taking a god and interpreting them in a fun way. Like playing a god that has multiple, like, he can choose holy or unholy, and then saying like, this god is traditionally viewed as maybe a little like shitty, as maybe even a little evil. How would a group of people still gain this god's favor, but maybe utilize this god in a positive light? And I think that'd be a very fun challenge as like a character, and like a writing challenge, which I think is a challenge to take with this.
I could make all the same arguments for old champion and how old alignment used to work. Like, how can I played an evil wizard, and there was no conflict in the party. There was nothing like that, and it was still able to work. It was just a different interpretation of like how evil was perceived, and you can have positive aspects to evil characters. In any regard, we could argue about this to the cows come home. I like the changes. I think they're good. I think that the way Champion is now works, but I do feel like a lot of people are starting to feel the lack of guardrails when it came to some of their character designs. And I do feel like we're going to see a lot of champions who are a lot more vague on what their character's like design is overall, because there's not such rigid guardrails anymore, which some people see as a good thing. But I don't know. In practice, it might be a lot messier. And
the train's off the rails, baby. I'm a gunslinger champion now. I'm here for it. I'm ready. That's the champion I'm gonna play.
We'll see for sure. And I mean, like, it's got a lot of potential for good and stuff. But yeah, champion was just one of those classes that didn't change in a way that I felt was substantial enough to really focus on at all. You know, I do like some of they're making champion more active. Some of their feats are a lot more active. It's going to make champion dedication so much easier to take, at least. True. For better or worse, you know. There was kind of this good aspect of it having characters who suddenly found themselves in alliance with a god in a way, or like aligned with a god in a way, which can still happen, but it can be now just taken a lot more freely. Do you feel like Player Core 2 introduced a power creep on balance between Core 1 and 2? No, I don't think so at all. I think Player Core 2 fixed a lot of power creep that was creeping in with some of the newer classes that were just functioning better than some of the older classes, and it brought a lot of their initial designs to a lot more of a flexible path that they didn't start with initially. So no, Player Core 2 does not offer power creep. I don't think any of the classes introduced in Player Core 2 are substantially stronger than Player Core 1.
No.
In fact, Player Core 1 had more classes overall that were mostly good to go, which is why they got put in Player Core 1. Also, yeah, like, they wanted
to... of them felt kind of untouched. Just like repackage some other things with them. Because that had like fighter and all that. And like, what did you need to alter about fighter?
Yeah. So, no, I do not think there was any power creep at all. I think the power creep has been in Paizo's overall design principles, but that's just because they've gotten better at running the game. Also awesome that you're also from the Pacific Northwest. Yeah. I don't have my Bigfoot shirt on, but I am wearing another shirt from Into the AM. I like this Cthulhu strangling a astronaut. So if you guys want this shirt, oh fuck, I don't have it in. No, I don't have it. Check out one of my other videos. There's a link in the description. You can get their t-shirts for 10% off, or anything on their site for 10% off. Help support the channel. People have been buying stuff now, which has been great. It's been helping me a little bit. It's not great commission. 10% commission is not a lot, but it is. If you want a good shirt, I get a little bit of a kickback, which is nice. And those shirts are pretty good for how cheap they are in comparison to a lot of other companies. Like, getting graphic tees is really expensive nowadays. There's some companies that do it for dirt cheap, but the quality is always questionable. I feel like this one's a really good balance. Sorcerer is much stronger than before, and I can prove it. Sure. Not that I trust anything you say about Sorcerer's Black Mist, but
I feel like a little biased, you know.
There's a wee bit of a bias. When will we have Exemplars to play? October. October is when War of Immortals come out, so Exemplars will be released then, and I'll be doing some videos on War of Immortals when it comes out in October. And oh my god, speaking about Sorcerers, so many people upset about the change to Cross-Blooded Evolution. People really just wanted the extra spell from another spell list.
Man, yeah, just the one extra spell.
I mean, as long as you're not going to be annoying about it, sure, Black Mist, go ahead.
I don't remember exactly, because I don't think I took that feat when I was Sorcerer. I remember looking at it and being like, ah, yeah, there it is. There's the feat. But if, like, oh man, my one spell is gone.
Did Philosopher's Stone or Elixir Rejuvenation get changes? No, Target. They did not. I looked into it when I was doing the video, unless there's some word I missed, which is always possible. It's hard to hit, it's hard to bat 100 when you have hour-long videos. Have you ever played or GM'd a dual class game? How did it go? I have not. I'm not a big fan of that style of play particularly. I think you remove a lot of class weaknesses with dual class. I mean, intentionally you can also just play like two casters. But it's very easy to make characters who have little to no flaws with dual class. For people who like dual class, I think it's fine. And I think dual class can be used in very ingenuitive ways if you want to play like a hard mode game. If you want to play a game where the GM's not pulling punches and is going to be throwing super dangerous stuff at you, I think dual class can be really, really fun. You know, it's a way to raise the stakes by giving the players more powers. All right, let's see what Black Mist has here. Explosion of power. Right at a glance, it's good, but very hard to use. But there's this old feat, very easy to forget, called Anoint Ally. Just trigger explosion of power from your fighter instead of yourself. Yeah, for sure. There are some good ways it can do it. I wouldn't say that makes it substantially more powerful.
It's just a fun combo. It is a great method to at least get around the whole fact of like explosion of power is kind of bad because you have to be in melee as a Sork.
Yeah.
It's like you're just, you know, a squishy little guy.
I use it for a true solo game. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I think dual class is something that if the game is going to be harder, dual class is a good way to amp up the power, because then the players are less likely to have any glaring weaknesses like classes tend to. But for me, what makes a game fun particularly is the struggle, and is having a character who has strengths and weaknesses. So, you know, it's not for me, but I definitely don't think it's bad for anyone who likes playing it. It's just not my thing.
You have to go into a game very specifically like tailored for dual class for a good reason to be very interested in it. Because when I hear it, I'm like, oh boy, that sounds like a lot of work to design a really cool class for that, like a build. And other than that, it just sounds like it'd be kind of overpowered. But if I heard like, yeah, we're doing this like this really cool campaign reason for dual class, then I could be sold on it. But just dual class for the hell of it, like, a lot of times I don't really want the idea of like a split identity for a character.
I mean, I think there's some very interesting ideas that can be done with it.
There can be. It's why I want there to be a specific campaign reason for it.
Yeah. But yeah. So overall, that's my thoughts on dual class. But yeah, overall, Player Core 2, I think it cleaned the game up. I think it brought a lot of things forward. I think a lot of classes got made better. You could argue that every class saw a substantial like buff, and I think overall it did what it set out to do. I think it's very evident that Player Core 2 had a lot of stress in the design, and I feel like Paizo just eventually wanted to get it over with this remaster project. And some of the classes, like, I feel like Investigator didn't get the same spit shine that some of the other classes got. And there are just some flaws in the book that I feel like definitely should not be there. Because one of the biggest ones, how are the Kobold new options? They're okay. They're just like ancestry feats, not wowing. They got a new shriek ability, shriek and flee or something is what it's called, where they get to shriek doing a sonic attack to everyone around them, and then stride half their speed without proccing reactive strikes. So
that ability is hilarious.
They got made more into little Grimbos. They got made more into little guys,
which is what's important.
But yeah, like one of my big gripes is champions archetype dedication not mentioning aura, the aura class feature. There are some things that just now doesn't make sense. Like, can I select this? It doesn't say I have a champion's aura, so you can't even technically use your reaction at that point, which is just one of their feats. So that's a confusing point a lot of people brought up, that like I think you can reasonably say, no, of course you get the champion's aura, but it doesn't say so in the book, and it is technically a class feature. Sorcerers also not having it mentioned that they give you access to blood magics, because even though you don't start with a blood magic, you still technically should have access to blood magic. Only usable on kineticists. Now the only class I can take champion's reaction is kineticist. But heritage-wise, aren't they supposed to be way more distinct than just dragons? No. I mean, they've been divorced a little bit from the idea that they're solely around dragons, but they've just been more hard locked into just being a little guy. So yeah, there's the whole Oracle debacle with, do they have 4-slot casting? The chart says 4-slot casting, but several sections in the book mention 3-slot casting. So what's the thing? It's
good that it was confirmed that that it is actually 4 slots, and it is actually also extra funny that you specifically, I keep seeing you cited as the source for no, they are a 4-slot caster.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's because I'm the only one who's... I think I'm the only one who's made a core video on it, actually. I know there's some other videos about the blog they did before the book released. But still. So, yeah. I do think that the book was really prone to more errors than normal because a lot of their features, I'm sure for the people who are implementing the stuff into the book, they were given like a checklist of like, okay, this changed, this changed, this didn't change, so copy paste it. And so there was a lot of copy pasting from prior books. And then there's also these weird moments where things were copy pasted because like the feat didn't change, but the wording changed slightly and made it slightly more confusing. Now, let's nip this in the bud because it seems to be starting up here now. Making a book is hard, and errors like this are only really evident after like the internet gets their hands on it. And to be fair, I make errors in my videos all the time, as people constantly let me know. And I sit there for hours reading, and it's like, how hard is it just to read 2 things and comprehend it? It's a lot. It's a lot of information you're gathering and putting out there. So, you know, there's also just a thing of there's a lot of times errors are caught too late in the process, and they can't be changed in print because they're like, oh shit, the book goes out next week and we can't change this because we already sent it in.
Or even like oh shit, this error was caught and the book is already sent out because it goes live in a month, with how like the publishing cycle goes. Like usually it's long. Like the books are finished and ready to go usually a month or 2 in advance. Like, and they're ready. Like, the cycles are long. And also, like, one thing I always give, we'll say for like any form of editing and book editing especially, it's hard and it's really tough to catch a lot of this stuff because there's one little trick that our brains do that I think a lot of people underestimate. When you look at the same thing for a long time, your brain will fix problems automatically sometimes as you kind of glaze over. Or just like patch things or avoid things. Because sometimes your brain will just go over something, be like, ah, yeah, let me just skim that. Or even worse, you've talked to the people who write this. You know what the intention of that is. And so you read a thing and you're like, ah, yes, I know what that means. And then it gets put into the face of a person who has not talked to the person who wrote that rule. And then they read it and they're like, what? Huh? What the fuck is this? And that's the eternal struggle of editing. It's a lot of that. It's really hard. Like, it's not an easy thing to do. And even tougher if you're not like massive budget, like giant company, but like they doing a great job for the scale they're operating at, and it's a tough job.
Yeah. And also, for everyone who says like they should have cooked more, they should have done better or whatever, you make content. You'll see how easy it is to miss stuff because the internet will not let you forget that you missed a thing.
The only way is if it was pure digital and they can edit a fucking Google Drive doc basically day one. That's the only way this could be avoided.
Even then, that's really hard to do.
Yeah, even then,
of, like PDF formatting and everything.
Oh yeah, it's not an immediate fix. It's just it's a easier fix than, you know, hard copies because it's easier, but it's still hard. And it's a tough industry, and like it's the reason we have day one erratas. I see a lot of people shame tabletop games for having day one erratas and patches, and I think for a lot of companies it's very understandable of why. There are moments where I think it's okay to be annoyed at a day one errata for things. I think having it for like like competitive card games and stuff is kind of annoying. Like with Magic the Gathering's had a few. I think that's very annoying to like print a bunch of cards and then be like, oh, by the way, that was wrong. And then be like, okay, cool, thanks. But like for Paizo, I think they're doing a very good job, and it is a lot of people who are speaking on it without fully knowing how much work goes into it.
Yeah, I mean, it just comes from ignorance, you know. People who watch pro MMA and they're like, whoa, why didn't this guy do that? Why didn't he do this? You also gotta remember, man, they crunched for Player Core 2. Because the thing is they couldn't really hold it off much longer. Because one, a lot of people were demanding the stuff 24/7 to them, sending emails and all this kind of stuff. But two, it was holding up a lot of their design time. People had to sit and actually work on this stuff rather than making new stuff for the game. So, you know, there's so much that a lot of people don't like. Honestly, I think I made my most mess ups in the monk video overall because I missed some feats that actually changed. And that was like the shortest, easiest video to work on. And that's just because I had been pushing myself so hard for like a week to read and digest information and then check and everything that I got sloppy. And that's the thing. They're people too. They also just get sloppy. So they were working really, really hard on this. Their whole team, many people. Shit's gonna slip by. That's just how it is. For people who are like, they don't agree with some of the design choices coming out, that's just always going to be the case, no matter what. Some people are like, oh, they should have done better by Oracle. I think Oracle's great. I think it works really well. It might not be what you wanted for its design moving forward. But it works. It works very functionally for what they were going forward, and they were still trying to make compromises to keep the same flavor for old Oracles, so at least if your character had to transition, you would still have some of that. But still, I don't know. Just do it perfectly the first time, as quickly as possible, for the least amount of money. Yeah, it's you know. And then there's also that as well, as like they don't have infinite money to hire editors and people to check over content and all kinds of stuff. So
yeah, it sounds like they have editors, and then from what we've talked about with the Paizo devs that we've interviewed, It sounds like a lot of it too is people they like send it to other people and teams to like read through some of the books and give feedback. So it's just like kind of a bunch of people get to look at the book and like talk about it and give some feedback. But it's still a very kind of like all hands on deck style deal. And even then, it's tough when you're not, Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast. We've seen the quality of work that they do, but that's because they have the mentality of quickly as possible.
Yeah. And then there's also things that like get mixed up in the process. Like sometimes an editor is given a piece that isn't actually the final design because there's like a meeting later that day where they're going over something, and so the editor gets the wrong piece that doesn't end up moving forward. So it's a process. So,
Publishing is wild. It's a crazy, crazy world.
it's just not as easy as everyone thinks it is, and I think that's just the overall take home. No shade on people who want a good book first and no errors, right?
Oh yeah, like no worries on that, because the hope is that the thing you get and the thing you have physically in front of you is the information that you can use, and you won't have to like look at it and be like, well, and these paragraphs are wrong actually, because I have to go online and do that. Because trust me, I used to play competitive 40k. Anybody who knows. I used to play even worse. I played competitive 40k as the Custodes. For a large chunk of my playtime, my codex, only a couple pages of my codex functioned, but I still had to take it. You had to bring the codex. Only a little bit of it was accurate because they completely changed everything. And so I paid like $40 for a book that is functionally useless. And the only thing of value in this thing is the lore, and the lore has been altered a little bit, and so even then, it's outdated. So yeah, trust me, I get it.
Yeah, and like I just talked about, champion not mentioning their aura, sorcerers not mentioning blood magics. There are some, I think, rather substantial things missing from the book that honestly were probably just second thoughts because they had bigger priorities. They'll do their best to alter things moving forward, and this works best for them because now they can dedicate way less manpower to do so. So it's something that if you're upset, that's fine. Go ahead. And we live in a free country. Say what you want to say. Just understand that there's a lot of people who also just don't agree with you too. It's I don't know. People, words. There's not a lot of things. Here's the question: what class is missing from? I'm assuming Pathfinder 1 for Pathfinder 2E. What style of play would you like to see, or what fantasy class do you feel is missing? I mean, I still really miss the Inquisitor. Inquisitor was one of my favorite classes.
I like the Inquisitor a lot in Wrath of the Righteous.
But they're not bringing Inquisitor forward, so...
No. Or at least they're not bringing the term and the idea of Inquisitor forward. And for the reasons of, like, its main, idea, they're not a fan of it, like, right now. And the idea of also, like, Inquisitor is such a hard thing to bring up, because like everybody has a different idea for what Inquisitor is, I think is how it was put to us.
Yeah, which honestly, after talking with other people who played Inquisitor, it's like I agree, there's a lot of differences regardless. So no matter the idea,
so like I like the theme of it. Like I want like a Monster Hunter-y style class. I think it's like really sick, and I think that theme is something that they could easily do. But also, I do think that's a very good point to like just kind of leave Inquisitor where it is. Of no matter what they do for Inquisitor, even if they take like a bunch of the play styles, like, and ideas from Pathfinder 1, it's going to leave a lot of people really mad because they're like, but my version of Inquisitor, they ignored it. Paizo is dead. Like they're just gonna complain, and like because it's just like, well, everyone just has a different idea of it.
Hello, an annihilating swing can kill outright any enemies who is struck? No. Thank you for asking. No, that's not what it does. You can see what it does in the video. Yeah, a lot of people want the shifter, which I totally get as well. I think it's just hard to have something like that in the game because it's just like, okay, how do you balance that with some of the other classes when you have a character whose whole thing is supposed to be being able to shift to match the situation perfectly, right? So how do you have a marshal that is balanced with the other marshals who's supposed to fit the situation in every way?
Yeah.
So, you know, I do think they're well aware. And the Howl of the Wild, the fact that they added feats to both like Druid and Barbarian for the sake of getting special actions well shifted, I think is really, really good. Okay, sorry for my bad interpretation. No, sorry. You're fine. I'm sure English isn't your first language either. So, thank you for asking. No, that's not the whole point of the feat, though.
No, I just double checked it. I can see how the interpretation can be taken. It destroys objects, objects specifically, and like surfaces. It doesn't kill enemies, but it does say that right after talking about clobbering a guy. Like you can clobber somebody, and then says, and you destroy it, and it is referring to the object or the thing the dude is standing on. And I'm like, okay, I can see that. I can see why someone would assume that. That makes sense. But then no, it's referring to objects. It's like, you know, shatter in D&D or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is that's a cool feat. It gotta be real. I didn't know about that.
Yeah. And I think a really big thing for a lot of people to know when it comes to like bringing stuff over from Pathfinder First Edition, they can't now without more substantial changes because of the OGL. So a lot of the stuff that they made after in First Edition was based on the overall design principles of D&D 3.5, essentially.
Yeah.
So a lot of this stuff, even if it was a little bit more unique to Pathfinder, was based on a game that is still currently licensed. By the way, Pathfinder First Edition is still licensed under OGL, not Orc. So there's just not a lot of things they can take without having to rework everything.
Oh man, so we're definitely never getting Ninja and Samurai.
Yeah, that one.
I shouldn't have said that. I'll destroy the Pathfinder Reddit again.
Also, Momo Knight. You might have missed it in my Dragon Blood video, but the archetypes, well, multi-class archetypes are tomorrow. And then I'm going to be covering some of the archetypes more in depth for the archetype changes after that. So you're in luck for the next few days, probably some archetype videos. So, you know, I trust Paizo. This is the thing. I implicitly trust Paizo to come up with some new, interesting, fun ideas. And Paizo, the people who work at Paizo are the biggest fans of Pathfinder you'll ever meet. So, that being said, I do think that they're trying their best to give more options to old ideas to kind of bring them forward. I think the biggest problem is there's just not enough new books for all the new cool things. Oh, Dead Phoenix, I'm so sorry. Can we get an F in chat for Dead Phoenix having to miss another session 3 weeks in a row? you have my condolences. So, I do think that a lot of what we have had in the past, we're gonna see new stuff. Like, I think old Shaman is thematically kind of being brought forward with Animists, just not to the same degree. And to be fair, a lot of old Pathfinder 1E classes were designed with the principle of being hybrids of two other classes. So, like, we're not going to see a Slayer. We're not going to see an Arcanist. Because a lot of those are just like, okay, let's just take two classes, mix them together, and see what we get. Because that's just not the design principles they're moving forward. They would prefer that each class that comes out is a hybrid of, or is a new idea that you can play with.
Yeah, like, I know that isn't Slayer kind of coming with one of the upcoming books? Is there gonna be a class archetype?
Was it? I know Avenger is coming.
Oh, I might be thinking of Avenger.
Yeah, Blood Rager also coming soon.
That's what I'm thinking of. Okay, thank you.
Archetype.
I knew there was something from, like, Slayer. I was like, okay, it's one of those. It's one of those things that I'm like, I know that from Wrath of Righteous.
Yeah.
But I know that that's a big thing right now, is like one of the mentality, and it's the thing that we talked about with them on our live stream, was the idea of there are methods of just creating a lot of identities and like concepts already within the class structure and the archetype structure. And so, like, sometimes you look at a class that existed in Pathfinder First Edition, you're like, yeah, you don't need this. You can already create this. More class archetypes would be nice, though. I think that is very true. I think there's not enough. I think there'd be not enough in the way of give me more content, please, Paizo. I'm starving over here.
Yeah, we're all Patrick from SpongeBob. Now gonna starve.
Exactly. Paizo, I'm hungry.
So much good stuff. How of the Wild released so much good stuff. Tiansha character guy is gonna release so much good stuff, and everyone's just like, but Shifter. It's like, oh, come on, guys. Stuff is coming. Just chill out a little bit. It does seem that they are moving forward with the idea of adding new class archetypes in more of the books, which is really good, and is a design choice that I think we've been lacking up until this point.
Because we have a few. It's like really like a small amount of class archetypes.
Spellcaster archetype, class archetypes, with the exception of Gunslinger, who has a spellcastery class archetype with spell
amazing
shot. So yeah, I think they wanted to make spellcasters have some more interesting choices than just choosing spells originally. So
there are 5 class archetypes that are currently in the game, and all 5 of them are spellcaster. I mean, spell shot is based. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Rune Lord's pretty cool, but like, I also agree.
Rune Lord did get kind of bricked by remaster as well.
It did. It really did.
So, yeah. Don't forget the APs. Yeah, the APs also introduce a ton of stuff all the time. Like, we get a ton of stuff all the time. And that's actually why I made my original archetype series that I now will be continuing, because now I know generally the new design principles behind the remaster. A lot of people didn't realize there were so many different options you could pick for your characters for moving forward. And so I do think we're going to be getting more class archetypes. I feel like people are going to be able to do a lot of stuff moving forward where we get to have more flexibility and more changes. But I think in the end, they're not going to be able to cover everything. So you know what I actually so heavily support? I support third-party content for Pathfinder. Go check out Pathfinder
Yes.
Infinite. People are making stuff now for all the things. I think we're getting to a point now where people understand the game enough that that there's going to be better and better third-party content. So, hey, this is what homebrewing is about. You get a game that has such a good skeletal structure, you want to add some stuff to it. That's what good homebrew is about. You can't expect Paizo to do absolutely everything.
I want more people making more cool stuff, because we got some absolute hits in like third-party Pathfinder content. Like Eldritch Osiris games.
Yeah. James Beck from Eldritch Osiris Games. They've been doing a lot of cool stuff with mechs and all kinds of very interesting things.
A lot of some of their like class stuff. I know they did one with summoners, I think, and that looked really cool. And so like there's just some very, very cool things that can come out, and it's also part of what we've talked about where they have a new license, like the Orc license, and if more people were doing stuff with it, I would love that. I'd love if more people were utilizing it in the same way that we all, I think, would wish that like games steal the bones of Pathfinder, use the Orc license, and create really cool like new games, but just with the framework of a very, very good tabletop game. Because this game is very good. Just feel free to utilize it to make something cool of your own idea. Much like instead of everything getting a D&D clone, can we get some Pathfinder clones?
Please. Give me something that has a really good actual structure. You know what's sad? I've actually been trying to contact some other content creators when it comes to D&D, because I want to get someone in here to talk about D&D 2024 to see like some of their opinions on it, and I haven't gotten any responses yet. It sucks.
Hopefully they didn't do a thing where they're like, maybe I should look at TableTalk, and then they click a video, they skim forward an hour, and it's us saying D&D shit. This game sucks.
There are many videos of shitting.
The
on
people
D&D.
who cover it, they're bad. Like, what's just shitting on D&D content creators and the game they play.
Nah, I think it's just channel's not big enough. We need to caption more orphans and put them in the YouTube mines so they can watch the channel on repeat over and over.
More people need a sub.
Exactly.
And then, I mean, that'd be funny, we should have more landmines for any content creators trying to skim to like prep for your streams.
Yeah.
Like like 5th edition is a bad game. All right, there you go.
There you go. Yeah.
Just one
we
little
met the
tiny
quota
one.
for shitting on D&D per stream.
Thank God. I wouldn't be able to sleep tonight if I didn't say that this stream.
Yeah. Shit. They don't know, but it boils up inside of us. Like, it's an actual condition.
Yeah, I got a little like meter. It's like a pressure valve. It's got to go out like at least a little bit.
I played in a Pathfinder 2 game where they replaced D20 and 3D6. I think there's a lot of really interesting ideas, honestly. So,
I could see that working.
I do kind of want to circle back to talking about the player core, because I do have my major gripes with player core is player core 2 and player core 1. They are based on a really good idea, but the problem with the whole thing, the whole process, has been they are now they had to dedicate so much time to just redoing a bunch of stuff from prior books, and this wasn't widespread. There's other classes kind of made under the old chassis of the game that are now hurting, like the Magus, for instance. A little bit of Summoner, not too much, but the Fey Island particularly got a little screwed over. And most of all, the multitudes of archetypes that now just struggle to function under the new design principles. I understand the choice, and I think it's good that overall they've decided to move in this direction where now they're more free and they don't have to worry about any of their design being grabbed by Hasbro's greedy hands. But it's a change that came at a cost. There is a lot that I feel like they are forsaking for the sake of the remaster, and I think it wasn't much of a choice, or at least they didn't feel it was. But nonetheless, like, the damage is done. We're at that point now where things that used to... Magus is in a better place than Summoner, though. What are you talking about? I don't think people understand what this point of Summoner is. Captivator, yeah. Also got hit, which was also one of my favorite archetypes.
Yeah, Captivator is interesting. I mean, yeah, we've talked about Magus so many times, but like the main bit that it all comes down to as well is like they're doing this legally speaking. They're trying to really make sure that they can make their game without any issues. It's just legally this is the right decision they should make, and the problem with a remaster of anything, if it is not a complete and utter remaster of literally every single piece of content, and for a game as large as this, I think that is unfeasible. The problem is that it really calls to attention everything that doesn't get remastered, which is exactly what you're mentioning of like, yeah, now we look at all the other stuff and we're like, yeah, but this though.
Right.
Yeah, but this, like, because yeah, I really would love Magus to get fucking something. I like the swashbuckler treatment of just, can we open up the playstyle just a little bit so it's not a fucking turn rotation? I don't like how Magus, like, it functions. I think you can make this a lot more freeing with just like a slight alteration of like some of the basic class functions, and then it would feel a lot better. It just doesn't feel as good to play. You don't need to make it stronger. I think just alter it a little bit so I'm not doing the same basic just rotation of turn constantly, and then I'd be happy. Also, I hate the fact that you have to both hit with your spell, hit with your attack, and like you waste a spell slot if you miss with either.
Yeah.
Like you can just miss. I hate that. I hate the large opportunity of just wasting resources. I think, there's nothing, you lose nothing by using spell strike and just charging up your weapon for next time you hit, that's when the spell goes off. I don't think there's anything hurting that. Like a stance or something. I don't know.
Also, Inventor needs a lot of love. What do you mean? Inventor's so good.
Inventor is fine.
This is the thing, right? This is the thing that people never agree what needs changing or what doesn't.
Magus actually has flaws, and then like Summoner, like the thing is when we say Summoner, I think the thing is it's part of Summoner. Like the entire class, I don't think needs a freshener. The Fey Eidolon is just not very good.
It just doesn't work, really.
No. Fey Eidolon is just bad, but like Summoner itself is pretty solid. Like it's a cool class. It's just Fey Eidolon, it doesn't work.
You know what, Target? I agree. I think companions and stuff need more items in the book, to more interesting things. Because there's just not a lot, and that's such an interesting design space to open up. So that's something I can hella agree with.
Agreed.
But yeah, I don't know. I just what flaw does Magus have? It literally does not have enough actions in its kit to make use of its entire kit.
It makes it so there is a correct rotation and like method of playing Magus, and that is kind of lame to play in a tabletop game where you're kind of doing turn 1, I have to do this specific setup. Turn 2, I then do this for spell strike. Okay, now I go back to like rotation 1. All right, let's go back to this. I do this. Like it's just you're doing a very specific setup each time. Like that's what you're doing. which isn't great. I'm playing a game, tabletop game in imagination land kind of deal. I'm not playing an MMO with set rotations in my like kit. It's literally the problem with Swashbuckler of like you're playing a character that's meant to be kind of free flowing and like using stuff on the fly, and then boom, there's a rigid method of playstyle inherent in the kit with how it functions. And all you have to do to change that is just loosen it a little bit. You just alter like some of the features, and a boom, it just is fixed.
Like,
And I think there's ways of doing that.
like their I want to say it's Arcane Shroud, but that doesn't sound correct. What is that stance that Magus go into?
It's not Cascade.
Oh, I think it is Arcane Cascade.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Okay, Arcane Cascade. So this is one major flaw with Magus. So the class is designed to spell strike. That's kind of like the main focus. That's where your class is really strong. So what do you do your first round of combat? You run in and spell strike. Yeah. If you then it says for Arcane Cascade, if your most recent action this turn to cast a spell was to cast a spell or make a spell strike, you need to meet the requirements to match it. So you can't Arcane Cascade literally until your second turn if you want to spell strike on your first turn. Or you cast some other spell cantrip at range and then Arcane Cascade, which doesn't feel good. So you have a buff that requires this. And then on top of this, your spell strike is a one-shot make or break hit, which doesn't feel good in play. That's why spells have been changed so dramatically. And then if you miss, well, you got to reload your spell strike, and the best way to do that is to use a focus point. So do that, do a little damage, get your spell strike back. And then your rotation is stand next to enemy, spell strike, and then hybrid spell until you don't have hybrid spell, and then it's spell strike, and then get your stuff back. It's so rigid. It's so not interesting. And there's so much action economy based around spell strike. Legitimately, a change that would make spell striking better is if you couldn't spell strike every round, forcing Magus to do something different on their other rounds, or to use spells that buff their melee strikes or whatever. It's just too rigid. and rigidity in a game that can have so many variables to combat situations like Pathfinder, like, it's not just White Room combat. It's so much worse than that. You have to do anything special on your turn. You're just not spell striking that turn, which doesn't feel good. And even though the Magus can definitely play without using spell strike all the time, that's not what you feel like you should use when it comes to Magus. So
yeah, it's like the kind of deal when you're playing Magus is like you want to optimize to use spell strike as often as possible because that's your basic class feature, and that's what a lot of your abilities as like your leveling are kind of built to help you do more, stronger, and wider with other abilities. And so then when you're not spell striking and like playing without using it, you're like, well, now I'm just either a wizard who with martial proficiency and like armor proficiency, or I'm a worse fighter. So it's like you kind of should be using spell strike because like that's your thing. That's your class ability. You got spells 100%. You can be casting and doing stuff. But then you're like, well, I could cast this like spell and do damage. It's like why I should be doing both. So then I should spell strike. Okay, but now I have to go through this rigid step-by-step process to make sure I do spell strike correctly, which is then brings us back to the problem. It's like we both of us, Cam and I, have both played Magus. Like Cam longer than I have, because I fully played Magus and I was like, I don't like this. I really don't like how this plays. Because it was my issue with Swashbuckler, and they fixed Swashbuckler because Swashbuckler got opened up a lot. and it's a massive improvement. So I think Magus should also have the exact same treatment. I don't think it even needs anything that crazy. I think you can just do a couple little changes and fix how it feels to play. Not even like a power boost, just how it operates in a turn. That's all it needs. Just fix up its turn order, essentially. Its action economy. Just a little bit.
Yeah, and honestly, I would say design-wise, de-emphasize Spell Strike. I think Spell Strike should be a very powerful feature, but I feel like Spell Strike shouldn't be the whole design idea, because when I played Magus, I did my damnedest to avoid the Spell Strike rotation. I used spells that amped my attacks. I tried to do other kinds of buffs and everything like that, and I eventually just devolved into the Spell Strike rotation, because literally it just does so much more damage, and it really restricts. I tried. I literally did. Also, Pathfinder combat just doesn't last long enough more often than not to really get full use out of a lot of their features. Yeah, Starlight Span is arguably the best way to play Magus right now, because it works a lot better.
You're not wasting actions on movement. Is like one of the big reasons.
Yeah, which is just alleviating the Spell Strike problem in a different area that it really shouldn't be, which is movement.
Yeah.
So
because it makes one of the best Spell Strike spells as a Magus, the teleport attack
charge
ability. Yeah, Blink Charge. It just makes that one of the best spells you should have in your spell book, because like that fixes your problem of, you know, now I can Spell Strike first turn without spending my action to move. It's just, that's the problem. I can at least understand like the idea of deprioritizing Spell Strike. Like, I think if it was they were doing a class redesign, I get it. If they were going to add some other stuff to Magus and like take it in an interesting direction, I think they can keep how Magus operates. I think just like I think if Arcane Cascade wasn't an action even, and like if the other thing, if a Spell Strike if it missed, you didn't lose a spell slot. I think if Spell Strike went off on your next hit, I think I'd be kind of happy. So you can like load it up and then like run in and like next turn, then if you swing, like your spell goes off. I think that also fixed some things. I think it'd be a fair enough change. Just like those two little alterations, I feel like would free up Magus a lot.
Yeah, it's just the game doesn't support Magus's very action-hungry economy, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, it's very particular in how it plays. It's like Starlight Span is just very, very good because it gets around how you spend your actions. It also lets you, you know, be very cool and like use ranged weapons as Magus. And like the image of Magus is dope. It's so sick. But like, man, oh man, how it feels does not transfer. I would love just a little errata. That's all I'm asking for, because it takes less effort on their end. Just a little one, just a little itty bitty little change.
And Val, Summoner, from what I've seen, needs more support for large and huge islands. Making your summon who shares your health pool a bigger target just seems like a straight nerf in most situations. It isn't. I don't know why you would think so. It gets massive reach, and also Summoner is a 10 HP per level class, so it has a good amount of HP, and it's so action efficient that you could literally, if you really want to and you had the right spell list, cast heal on yourself and have your Highland strike twice every round, making you very efficient. So I think if people think Islands need buffs or Summoner needs changes, you don't understand what the whole point of it is. My favorite Summoner build was like a giant tree that had effectively a 30-foot reach. It was sick. It was a lot of fun. I mean, that's also true. Yeah, large island has the same problems as any large PC, which, again, isn't really a problem most of the time. I guess it just depends on your team comp, but more often than not, you should be pretty set. You should be pretty okay in most situations.
Yeah. As long as you're not like trying to, I guess, playing around solo play, which, you know, hey guys, don't do that, because funnily enough, I saw a thread about that on Twitter today. But there is a trend, I guess, in Pathfinder, like stuff of people optimizing your character and in a way of assuming that you're playing a Pathfinder by yourself.
Yeah.
No, you have team comp, guys. You're not soloing bosses here. But like, no, I think it's a good point. It's like you're essentially just playing a large PC at that point. So like, it's the same thing.
And every pixel count says, didn't they say they're not remastering the other classes? Yeah, they're not. No. They're going to errata them. But I don't think we're actually going to see a significant change to Magus unless they feel like it's demanded. And I don't feel like there's a big enough demand for Magus changes. As
no,
as that is.
It's just a personal thing that both of us have complained about for a while. That we just want if they're going to errata Magus, we want the turn like action economy just altered, and at least like I've at least said how I think it could be done very easily, which is altering some basic class features. And I think it's just freeing up how the turn orders can go for Magus.
Yeah. Summoner does have the weird thing where you either need hand wraps or mighty blows or invest in a weapon for attack and damage for your island. Yeah, that's because it's balanced with all the other classes who need to do the same thing.
Like Monk?
So, like Monk. So, you know, they want you to spend money on your character to get the same power that other people have. So it's not really a problem. And we saw in Riptide how good a good like set of hand wraps works.
Oh god, and that was a Fey Eidolon too, the one where that isn't very good, like we'll say. But oh yeah, like a good Fey Eidolon, like just an Eidolon, give them some hand wraps, mighty blows. They'll kick some ass. It's scary.
It's real good.
It works.
You normally don't invest in a weapon though. Yeah, but that's a small price to pay to have the same general power. So yeah, and also monks have to do that anyway. And plus there's so many invest slots characters to start with. It's a struggle. I've given my players, here's the whole book, buy whatever you want, and most of them don't fill out all their investment slots.
I've had a lot of money. The most magic items I've ever had was in Riptide, and I think I ended that game with like 6 or 7 magic items, both from like our large shopping sprees and from playing the game. I don't think I was close to my investment cap, because there's just a lot of items that aren't invest, like really good items that you don't have to invest in. So like, I don't think it's a worry, because thankfully it's not D&D's. You only have 3 magic items. It's like what, 10 or something? Like it's a lot.
10 at base. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, you're good. Like, just I've literally never had a situation where I've thought about how many items I can invest in. Like I've never had it come up like in games. We've done a decent amount. Like it's just, I don't know. And KO's pretty good with like magic item like distribution, both like in gold, like letting us get it and giving us items for our characters. And like it's never come up. So like, don't worry.
I think a lot of this just kind of really epitomizes the difference people see in some of the design principles of the game. It's people want different things from different classes. I think people see some things and either they don't have a comprehensive enough knowledge to understand how it works, like original Alchemist. Alchemist was really strong before. All the changes just made Alchemist that much stronger. But it was really hard to make use of that strength. So like, a lot of people didn't see it. It was
complicated. I didn't see it, and I still haven't read New Alchemist because I'm like, I still don't get it.
It's really whatever. It's simple.
I don't get it. I haven't read it, but I don't get it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, yeah, you still need 10 items. That's a lot.
Again, like I've like we had so many items in a long running game that we literally just wrapped up this Tuesday. Cam multiple times gave us like, all right, you're in Absalom, you can get whatever magic items you want that you can afford. And we're like, fucking okay, man. And we did it. Not close. We weren't worried about it. I just don't think it comes up often. You have 10, and then if depending on what you're doing, I think it's also like, is it just a feat to increase how many attunement slots you get?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can just increase it, man. If it's like if you need it for your build, I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a lot. And honestly, if you're like, oh, but I had 10 items, I'm like, sure, that Ring of the Ram or whatever is so handy, and you can't give that up to give your island bonuses to an attacks.
I would have thrown away my Ring of Ventriloquism immediately if something better came around.
Right.
What, a +1 on Deception? Whoa, crazy. I like, fuck that thing.
Yeah, I think that feat requires charisma. What summoner has charisma?
I know, right?
Being their core class trait.
It's unreasonable to ask for that. But no, I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal, to be completely honest. I don't think many people have actually like gotten to their attunement cap, if you're gonna be very, very honest. Like, because I seen one person mention it, and that was Dead Phoenix. He said it was because it was a level 16 to 18 adventure. And it's like, that makes sense. That makes sense then.
Yeah. And Agopin, I agree. That style of alchemists did kind of get the shafts. So, I mean, you still can, because the 10-minute thing is only for quick alchemy and not for all the stuff you make at the beginning of the day. So during time travel, your advanced alchemy can still cover your party. But if you're having multiple encounters, it does become a bit of a strain. But even then, I don't know. There are some ways around it, sure. I agree, though, that style is somewhat more difficult. So, everyone wants something different. Everyone wants something different from some classes or whatever. Some people don't see the problems with some classes. Some people do see the problems with some classes. It doesn't account for homebrewing. It doesn't account for things like rules a table just has forgotten exists at all. Like the whole point out action, which, by the way, I made a huge error in the well, I didn't make it. While recording Investigator, I made a huge error because I forgot literally that the point out action was a thing, and I was getting it confused with pointed question for a good point. So, yeah, and Empiricist's Eye, terrible feat. I think that's terrible. Someone was just like, oh, but I always have invisibility in most of my fights. I'm like, man, that sounds annoying. That sounds annoying that you created a situation where your party has to have constant, like, countermeasures against invisibility.
Hey, you've just made every single character have to have a method of dealing, because they just know, like, yeah, there's just going to be a thing for this. It's like, it's not like a challenge that they're overcoming. That's it's fucking Daryl again. He's putting the invisible guys in here. So it's just, all you're doing is making a new type of auto include. Like, that's all you're doing. You're just stealing a feat slot from your players. Or an item slot. That's all you're doing. Like, it's not, there's no challenge there.
Yeah. And yeah, Dead Phoenix is right. It's 2 vials, and actually it can become 3 vials of entry, where 3 of your party members can constantly have poison reapplied to them. So, there are easy workarounds, but for sure, I still agree that that style did get a little bit nerfed. So I don't know. I mean, Player Core 2 overall was great. I think that there were costs to it overall. I think many of the classes they touched were good. I feel like classes like Investigator should have gotten a little bit more interesting stuff added. At least new feats. That is honestly all I'm asking for. They're criminally robbed there. They got new feats, just not enough or around the ideas that really work best with the class. I feel like it didn't get the same shine that some of the other classes got. Swashbuckler was overall just made better, and I thoroughly enjoy those changes. Barbarian got buffs, and no one thought they needed them, so yeah, Barbarian's just better now.
Yeah, surprisingly.
And I wanna say that I think the number one takeaway I've learned with Player Core 2 and about Pathfinder in general is the game is so diverse that there are just going to be certain situations where how some classes function, how some feats work, or whatever, are going to work better in some people's games than others. For that person who has invisibility in all their fights, that's a very different game than a lot of the fights I run in some of my games. Some of my fights have some invisibility, but not nearly that much. So there's going to be feats that are obviously going to be better choices with that GM. And that's also another thing that I think is really big when it comes to things like the Investigator. If your GM loves mysteries, loves making the players figure stuff out, Investigator becomes a infinitely more appealing class than a GM who's just having you run through dungeons. So there are always going to be differences in opinion because sometimes we're just not playing the same game. Sometimes we're just not playing under the same situations where the same requirements from your party are being met. And so some classes will suffer in some games, and some classes will do really well. If your game is a constant, like, high-level encounter where you're constantly doing severe encounters in White Room combats, that's going to be substantially different than a table that is using lots of terrain and lots of low-level mooks to create challenge, because they're just different. If anyone's played Baldur's Gate 3, you can see a lot of those styles of encounters, where some encounters are just White Room combats. It's just you and a bunch of people in a room, and you gotta deal with it. And then there's others where the enemies are up on hard to reach places or in difficult spots, and they take a little bit more working to get through. So certain characters should flourish in multiple situations. Games should have a wide variety of different battles, but not everyone is capable of getting that set up. And sometimes it's just a beer and pretzels kind of night, and you just kind of want to game with your friends, and you don't want to think too hard about making maps or prepping ahead of time. And so a lot of your encounters are more simplistic. So whatever my opinions are not necessarily going to be relevant for your games, and vice versa. But there's people who are going to poo-poo the things you enjoy and vice versa. So, just remember, we're all just playing imaginary games. It's all in our heads at the end of the day. What matters most is what you enjoy. And if you can apply that to what everyone else is doing too, then you can just have civil conversations where you just like, I enjoyed how this used to play. I understand that it's better now, but it's not what I enjoyed from it. It's a pretty easy thing to be like, yeah, I can kind of see that. But some people get so defensive over their ideals when it comes to tabletop that Player Core 2 and Player Core 1 and the remaster in general was going to be controversial from the get-go. People were just not going to agree with the choices being made.
Yeah.
And
It was the same way when you do an edition change as well. It's just what happens when there's a thing, you've been playing it for a while, and then suddenly new thing comes out and it's calling itself the same thing as the thing you enjoyed.
yeah.
And now it's new. Oh, damn it. This isn't the same, better or for worse. And yeah, it's a redesign. There's issues with redesigns. And then also I see it a lot in a lot of more nerd spaces. It's just when it's a trend I see looking at it in the most kind of bad faith and I guess just most rigid way I can describe it when I see it in people is it feels like when I look at it, a lot of people feel like they have this mentality of the moment they join a game, that is the part that they want the game to stay at. It's like, okay, I've joined this game at this date, maybe 2022, and this is perfect. They can add new stuff, but if they redesign anything, I'm gonna be mad. It can never alter from this state. And then there's a person from 2021 who has the exact same opinion. It's like, all right, from this point, if they redesign anything, I'm gonna be mad. It's just like, yeah, it's the game you liked and you joined and you were used to, and then it got altered, and now you're gonna be upset. Just that's just how it goes when people redesign stuff and touch the thing you enjoy. It's very fair to be disappointed in things, but someone mentioned it in chat a while ago. I do feel like in actually playing it, I feel like some people's opinions are gonna mellow out because I do think some people on mainly social media are mainly doomer posting about like this thing is the worst thing ever.
I mean,
Oh
that's
God.
Reddit. That's all
Yes.
Reddit. Because those are the things that get the most views as well and most clicks, so.
It's just people being like, this thing is dead now. It does slightly less damage, or like this feat, it's fun, but like it's not optimal. It's like, well, one, shut up, nerd. I don't care. But on the other hand, like, okay, sure, whatever, but like it's not that deep, and once you try it out, it's probably gonna be fine. You can still be, I think, being disappointed at some of the remaster stuff is very, very fair. And there are still critiques though. And voicing the critiques for a thing you enjoy is very, very healthy. I think a lot of people should make sure you keep that in mind of like people who are like true fans and like love the thing you love. People like us, fans in like absolutely adore Pathfinder. You know, we should be the first people to criticize Pathfinder of the position of love. If we love the game, we want it to be the best thing possible. We'll be the first ones to like point out the things we don't enjoy out of it, and then play a game of Pathfinder like the next day.
And then Gam. Demolitionist is not in the remaster, so it did not get changed. So yeah,
I know change is scary. I get it.
Yeah, remember the
change.
Cantrip controversy, prime example, and people nitpicking. Yeah, you know, I mean, like, and we've had a lot of these kind of conversations in the past. The game is still good. We're all here arguing like, this game that's incredibly designed is not perfectly suited to me. And it's like, we're still playing Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Be glad you're not the D&D 2024 crowd who
can have it worse.
I've seen people shouting about. There's my take on there's my landmine for this video at the ends. So people
Thank God.
Yeah, I gotta get it out, you know, or we'll
I was worried about your health, man. like I mean, yeah, could be worse, guys. We could have had our bad remaster project, and then it turns out that they took our class and completely like destroyed it. They actually made it like worse in all accounts. That could have happened. It didn't happen in any way here. So that's something.
D&D bashing. I've been waiting 2 hours.
Just someone waiting, like white knuckle gripping their chair, like when are they gonna shit on D&D?
But D&D 2024 is better than 5e. No, it's arguable that they changed much at all. a lot of the changes came from Tasha's. They've just been implemented into a core book.
Yeah, they just reprinted Tasha and then also removed other subclasses that people really liked from the game. And then also took elements of classes and are gonna make them function worse. So I would argue probably not, actually. I think it's highly debatable that D&D 2024 is gonna be better.
I mean, there's also just like the nerf some classes got versus the buff some classes got. Warlock kind of getting the shaft for their whole main thing.
Paladin, Ranger, like
Ranger
they all kind of got
apparently,
shit on.
Ranger apparently that just got the double shit can again, which is hilarious.
They already had it. Like they were already bad, and they
Yeah.
somehow fucked it up again. Champion is literally in their method of like, we want to limit how much DPS Paladin does. They made it so now Paladin is only going to use Smite because they made it so Smite's a bonus action. So now people are going to hoard their bonus action to only Smite. Crazy how decisions work, huh? Fucking yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah, so you know,
I don't know.
At this point, actually, this is a good point. We should be ending soon because time. Yeah. But like, I do want to make mention. I was planning for a while to cover D&D 2024. I was curious, and it's a game we talked about many times, and I felt like it would be only fair to like really give a good shake to D&D 2024. But if I was to cover it, one, I'd have to purchase the book myself because they're definitely not going to send me one. Which I would not have a problem with if, one, the money wasn't going to Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro. And two, if it didn't sound like 2024 was just a big errata put into an even more expensive book that they've been claiming for a while. Like, it's almost a moral principle I don't buy the book because it sounds like a terrible deal for everyone who actually enjoys D&D. And I feel like supporting that in any form is not great. So I think my plan is to change to, we'll try to find someone who knows enough about D&D to come onto the channel and actually talk about D&D 2024 so we can have a honest conversation. Because honestly, if I was to make a video on it from my own perspective, obviously I have biases. Obviously, I'm not as knowledgeable about D&D. Man, I don't know what is happening in D&D anymore nowadays. And I've forgotten most of the stuff from back when I was doing Adventures League. So we'll see. There might not be a video, but it might be like a table talk where we talk with someone who's actively like in the know and has some changes. I'm not sure. We will do something because I feel like it's too big not to talk about. But I'm just trying to align it better with, I think, my morals, and as well, I don't feel like I can give a very accurate my D&D complaint. Why did Matt Mercer ungay Saren Ray? That's such a that one line just speaks so much about the D&D community right now. So I don't feel like I can give you guys a very good take. I don't think like my opinion is that valid, to be honest. It's not even from my bias, but just from my general lack of knowledge of the game. So we'll find something else for sure. We'll be looking up some other things, and as well, I'll still be releasing for through this week and into next week. Which, by the way, man, where'd the week go? Holy shit! I've been doing videos every day, and I was like, man, I gotta get so many videos prepped. and we're already like through this week, and we just have one more week to go before I think I'm gonna run out of content. To be fair, we'll have to see, but also before like Starfinder comes out and everything like
Mhm.
that. So, and plus, I don't know. I'm sure many of you aren't so tired of Player Core 2 content, but I can definitely start to see some of the fatigue in the views for Player Core 2 content. So rather than killing myself and doing like a bunch of videos, we'll see if we start slowing down sometime next week. But for the foreseeable future, there's gonna be a video every day for the archetype stuff and the spell stuff, and maybe some more of the ancestry stuff. After that, I might slow down, but that's still like a week's worth of videos, easy. So, yeah, that's gonna be it. Alex, any news you want to leave us off with today before we head out?
I am still reconstructing my stuff to do a solo thing, which is primarily purchasing things. And man, I'm gonna try to get myself a mic, which I'm just gonna at some point probably just make a video that is not going to be with a brand new nice mic, because it's gonna wait a paycheck or something, especially with traveling, like vacation payment basically. But yeah, production got slowed because, like, you know, everything was mainly worked around a roommate, and then that roommate is leaving, so I just gotta get everything set up again. And also I've been buckled down working a lot and working around other friends who are all leaving, so I've been hanging out with them, because a large chunk of my old film buddies are all leaving. They're all, so a lot of them are actually heading to like LA, so I'm hanging out with them.
Crazy.
Yeah, so they actually have a fucking good deal, so they're not going to like a shithole like 8-person to a studio apartment style LA.
Yeah.
They actually are going to pay like a normal livable rent at a nice house within like a 30-minute commute to LA. Like, they explained to me the setup because it's like a family friend or like like a relative of one of them, and I'm like, holy fuck, my man, like, that's great. I'm so happy for you. I hope you get to work on really cool projects. Please tell me if you get to work on something big, because my roommate moving is one of the best cinematographers I know. So yeah, I've been spending time with my buddies instead of making films or videos. Admittedly, I will get back to it, and then it'll be delayed again because we're gonna go all hang out and play board games.
Yeah, then we're gonna hang out. More buddy time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's fine because my channel is a little bit of a self-perpetuating engine right now, so I'm okay with that. But I'll get back to it. I'm gonna have to make more Warhammer and Trench Crusade videos because they keep posting more Trench Crusade content, and I'm gonna have to make stuff on the Heretic Legions actually. Because holy fuck, they keep posting cool art about it.
I'm excited. I'm excited to get back to covering other games other than Pathfinder again. I was just getting into the Fabula Ultima stuff, and we're just a couple mechs out from finishing all the base Lancer stuff, which is kind of cool. Plus, we on the channel, if y'all don't know, we're gonna be playing Mutants and Masterminds live on the channel, probably after a few weeks. Sometime probably towards the end of August is when we're gonna start playing Mutants and Masterminds. So we're gonna play Mutants and Masterminds.
So excited.
Yeah, it's gonna be hype.
I'm so excited to rip off Infamous in Mutants and Masterminds.
Yeah.
The best game of the PlayStation 3 era, and yet they've never ported it or remastered it. I will eternally be mad about that.
Infamous and Bloodborne stands.
I know. I fucking please bring it to PC, because the problem is specifically you like emulating Infamous is really hard because there's a specific texture bug with the PlayStation 3 and Infamous where certain textures and like visual effects won't load on a PC. And so I can't play it right and it won't look good. Please, Sucker Punch, let me play Infamous. Also the Vampire DLC, which is weirdly fun. But oh my god, I just love those games so much, and I want to play them. And I get to have electricity powers, which is the coolest power.
True.
Always.
True.
Electricity and electromagnetism, my boys. I hold them up equally.
But yeah, so we'll be doing some new stuff. And also actually I want to take this opportunity as well. Thank you for everyone who's come joined the channel in the recent week and months. Honestly, our community has been growing like crazy lately. Our Discord's over how many members are we at now? It's like 300 and something. It's crazy how many people.
Okay, I always forget where that button is.
See here, we have 315-ish, give or take.
That's crazy. Magneto is dope.
So we've gotten so many. My goal for this year has been to hit 10K, and this has obviously pushed us well to that goal. We are nearly, because I started off this month with, I think, just over 6K, just like a little bit over 6K, and we're now less than 140 away from 7K, so that's going to be huge. There's still going to be more stuff on the horizon. Starfinder content will be coming to the channel, as well as I'm going to keep going into other games like Fabula Ultima and Lancer a bit more. I will be covering War of Immortals and Divine Mysteries month after month. Oh, and we can't forget Tiansha Character Guide coming out next month, in addition with the Starfinder 2E content. So no one's going to be starving here on this channel. I am working the tabletop soup kitchen, making sure everyone gets a little bite to eat of their favorite games. And it's gonna be a good time. So I'm looking forward to doing a lot more for you guys, and I'm really looking forward to see how the channel grows over the next year. And also, if I can survive me having a baby, as I'm going to have a little girl in January, just about. So it's going to be a big life change in a lot of ways, and hopefully the YouTube channel is doing well enough that I can help augment or help support another family member for us. But that's going to be it for us today. Thank you all so much for watching, and I guess we'll go ahead and say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.